Welcome back to A Toast to History. Hey, we got another event today, and it's a very special one. Today is the 148th anniversary of the Battle of Gettysburg. Wait, 158th. Always carry the one, everybody. Don't forget to carry the one. Now, I'm not going over the entire Battle of Gettysburg. It would take about, you'd be in for like a 3-hour episode. It's been in books, it's been in movies. There's no way we're going to be able to cover all that material in this episode. And I don't have enough beer for it. I'm sorry. It'd be a bit. So we're just going to go over an aspect. And the aspect I'm picking this year is Picketts Charge, the final coup de grace, the final deciding factor of the battle. It's also very close to my heart because this is where, on this spot, is where I asked my wife to marry me. So therefore, it not only changed United States history, it changed my history. So, pull up a bar stool, grab your favorite beverage, and let's go over Picketts Charge. And yes, I did not lie to you. This was my tux for my actual wedding. I dressed up full history garb, full Civil War getup, everybody. And I thought I'd bust it out again. It's been a while since it's been on me. Feels good.
Now that's good history.
Now, Picketts Charge is a conflict that happened in the realm of Gettysburg. Gettysburg lasted 3 days. Day 1, July the 1st, the South clearly beat the North. Day 2, the North wins hands down. So now it's back and forth, 1-1. Now, Lee has a decision to make. Is he going to attack? Is he going to leave? But he knows from his generals, James Longstreet, you have enough cannon fire, enough guns for one more good fight. And you have one fresh division in General George Pickett, the Virginians, your best group of soldiers you've had throughout the war. So, now Lee has to make a decision. What do I do? This is where we get Picketts Charge. Lee has had some problems with command for a couple weeks now. He lost his best general in Thomas Stonewall Jackson. So now he's trying to get used to life without Jackson. And now he needs General Longstreet to be his right-hand man. Longstreet has always been Captain Conservative. You tell me to hold this hill, I'll hold it till the cows come home. But he's not the person who's really into attacking. He is more of a defensive guy and very conservative. Jackson, you tell him to take something, he'll find some way to take it. And now at Gettysburg, he asked Longstreet to be in that Jackson role. And he is not okay with this attack. He doesn't agree with it. He doesn't think it's going to work. General Pickett, his men are fresh. They just came up last night. They're the only ones where they have not tasted battle yet. So this is going to be the anchor of whatever attack Lee goes with. And he has about 6,000 men. Now Lee wants to take and attack the center of the Union lines. But he thinks he needs more men than that. So he takes 2 more pieces of divisions under James Pettigrew and Isaac Trimble. And this combined equals about 12,000 men. So he has about 12,000 men at his disposal to make this attack. But he's, with his thoughts, a plan of what am I going to do? Am I going to leave? Am I going to charge? He's going over his head. And right now, through this whole war, he's been the best tactician of the war. He wakes up, and he has a plan. Early in the morning, he's going to send his army to attack Culp's Hill. Culp's Hill commands the town. It's the biggest hill in Gettysburg. And he feels if he can get some troops up there and some cannon fire, he can fire down on wherever he wants and roll up the enemy line. Step 2. Jeb Stuart's back. Great, we have the cavalryman that I've been missing for 2 days. They're going to have him ride behind the enemy lines and create as much havoc as he can, so that when Pickett does charge, you're not going to have any reserves coming up. Whatever they have, they're going to have. And Pickett's attack, he's going to have 150 cannons firing at the same spot to break them up. And he's going to send his best troops in his army in to finish the job. So with these 3, he feels that he can break their lines. How can it fail? Now, Culp's Hill was a failure. They are so entrenched on that hill. The Confederates tried all day on the second day. Couldn't do it. They launched another one, trying to break up their lines. They're so entrenched up there with earthworks that they can't break through. So the first part of his plan fails. They can't roll up the enemy line. Now, Jeb Stuart's going behind enemy lines. We still have that. He can still cause havoc. That's what he's done. That's what he's done the whole war. That's what he do. Today, on this particular day, there's one thing he didn't count on. And a young, last his class, newly brigadier general, red cravat, long flowing hair, wants to make a name for himself. You guessed it. I mentioned him last week at the Battle of Bighorn. Brigadier General George Armstrong Custer. This guy's here. This guy's here at Gettysburg. And nobody knows Jeb Stuart's back there. So there's nobody around. There's no officers. There's no generals. So he doesn't really know what to do. There's nobody to take orders from. So Custer sees him there. And there's a command there. It's not even his command. But he's like, oh my gosh, their general's not there. I see the South back there. They're up to something. We can't let this go through. So he rides up in front of these columns, these 5 Michigan companies. He's from Michigan. And he says, it looks like I'm leading you today, boys. Come on, you Wolverines. And head forth, full speed ahead, dives into these guys. Now, he's outnumbered 5-1. They could literally trounce him. He does not have enough to really do anything. But they don't expect him to be there. And he comes out with them with the ferocity of the 4 horsemen. And it just runs through them. And he pushes them back. And they go off. Most people don't know about Gettysburg, about Custer even being there. But yes, he plays a pivotal role. Because now, Longstreet, Lee, Pickett don't know that your help's not coming. With Culp's Hill not being taken, with no Jeb Stuart to come help, Pickett doesn't realize he's it, and it's not going to work out for him well. Now, the South has 150 cannons, firing them for 2 hours. In charge of these cannons is Porter Alexander. For you Civil War buffs out there, you should know him. He was the guy at Fredericksburg. He was the man who said a chicken could not live on that field. That's how well he aimed his cannons. They have their best troops, the Virginians, coming out. You have the right person in the right place at the right time. But there's one problem that he doesn't know about, that the cannon guys don't know about. They're from Virginia. They get their stuff from Virginia. Richmond, Virginia, to be exact. But they don't know the cannon, the cannon factory blew up in Richmond, Virginia, where they got all their guns, all their munitions. So they had to get them from South Carolina. Now, okay, it's from South Carolina, whatever. But what they don't know is the wicks are different. So, a wick about that big has literally destroyed his attack. That big a wick is the whole problem with his entire assault. It doesn't burn the same. So, as they're firing, they're overshooting the position. These are good cannon guys. If they would have known about the wick, they would have just adjusted, fired off, and it would have been just the same as with the other ones, but they didn't know. And if you've been to any Civil War reenactment, you see the cannon fire. This is 150 cannons all at the same time. The last reenactment I went to had 50 cannons on each side. It was 150 on one side. You're not going to be able to see anything after the first few rounds. So they don't know. So they're firing, and they are causing so much destruction behind the lines, but they're not hitting any of the cannons. They're not hitting any of the troops, and they're literally missing their targets. Now, on the other side, you have Henry Hunt, another very good cannoneer for the Union. So he sees what's happening, and he starts telling his guys to slowly stop firing. One cannon, I'm going to shut you guys down. Then another cannon, I'm going to shut you guys down. So while this is going on, the Confederates think they're hitting them because they're not getting as much fire back at them. Then Alexander sends a letter to Longstreet. For God's sakes, attack now or the artillery can't help you. He is running out of ammunition. I've been firing for 2 hours straight. I'm running out of ammunition. And if you want any artillery to help you during the assault, you need to go now or I'm about to run out. So now Longstreet, who didn't want to attack the first day, didn't want to attack the second day, doesn't want to make this assault, has to make the final command to attack. Now, when Pickett asks Longstreet, do you want me to take my division forward? Longstreet reluctantly just nods his head. And I tell you, I know, Porter, you're running out of ammunition. But I know who's not, and that's General Hunt. Now they're about to go. Pickett rides in front of his guys. Now remember, up into your post. Remember, you're from old Virginia. And he rides off to his vantage point to watch and command from the rear. General Armistead, in charge of one of the brigades, he has his own speech. General Armistead raises his sword. For your lands, for your homes, for your sweethearts, for your wives, for Virginia, forward, march. And Hunt, on the other side, he's a great cannon guy. And he knows exactly where his guys are in perfect range. And he doesn't want to miss. If you've ever walked the field, there is a valley, and then the summit, and then goes into another valley. He knows about this. He's seen the field. So he waits, because he's like, I know they're going to come to that tip, and then I'm going to load all hell on them from whatever I got. So they march. They're a mile long. Shoulder to shoulder, it looks like they're on parade. Many documents say it was a beautiful sight and a terrifying sight because of all of the men that were out there. But as soon as they hit that ridge, Hunt starts firing with everything he's got. First, he goes with the balls, cannonballs. They fire and they explode, destroying probably 4 people wherever they hit. As they get closer, he searches the canister fire. These are like cannonballs with little metal balls inside them. So it's basically like you fired a shotgun the size of a cannon at them. So it takes out even more. And they're pushing. They're still pushing. They keep reforming the lines as they are dispersing. And then they reach the Emmitsburg Road, where there's a fence there that they still have to cross. And they are trying to climb across this fence. While being dressed under cannon fire, they're climbing a fence to advance. This is where a lot of historians say the body count should have been a lot higher. They believe this fence is where it happened because many people didn't cross this fence. They got scared and they returned back to their lines. Or they just sat there because they just did not want to go on. But the bravest still carried on. They kept pushing, aiming for these clump of trees because when chaos happened, they needed a point of like, where are we going to converge? And this clump of trees was their marker. This is where we're going to converge. General Armistead takes his hat off, puts on his sword, waves it in the air. Give them cold steel, boys. And pushes and pushes. They get over the wall. They break the lines. Even with all this devastation, all this chaos around them, somehow they break through the line. But those reserves that Jeb Stuart was supposed to take care of, with no Jeb Stuart, the reserves come up. And now it's hand-to-hand combat. And as they're turning the cans around, here come the reserves, and basically there's nothing left. There's no help for the Confederates. There's a lot of help for the Union. And about 10,000 will either be killed or wounded. Lee was awe-stricken that he'd lost and all the men he'd lost. July 4th comes, and everybody thinks Meade's going to come finish him off. But Meade also has been fighting for 3 days and does not. July 5th comes, and the South starts heading back home. And they have 17 wagons. They have 17 miles worth of wagons heading home. The Potomac River overfloods, and they're having a hard time getting back. And Meade has an ample opportunity to finish the South. And he doesn't. They get home. He writes a letter to Lincoln saying, "The enemy has been pushed from our soil." He could not have written worse words. So Picketts Charge becomes the turning point of the war. And it might be the turning point on two different angles. It's a turning point for Lee, and Meade is fired. But somebody else who's been doing a kind of a good job out west, Lincoln says, "You know what? Come on down." In the name of Ulysses Simpson Grant. And on a day where we're supposed to celebrate the new nation, a lot of people aren't celebrating because that nation's not whole again. All the dead and all the wounded. Gettysburg in 1863 did not celebrate the 4th of July because what's there to celebrate? We've been fighting for 3 days. We have men, bodies, horses all over the place. That puts into perspective for you. What is there to celebrate? Lee asks to resign. Jefferson refuses to take it. Now, for 2 more years, the South will fight. But they have lost the capability to launch any offensive campaigns. It's all defense. Pickett will not be the same man since. After the battle, Lee tells him to form his division. He says, "General Lee, I have no division." There's later a chance where they're trying to break out when they're surrounded by Grant, and he has Pickett read the charge. And Pickett breaks out. But then he's very slow and not the same guy he was before Gettysburg. And they catch up to him, and it breaks up, and it fails. Even at Appomattox, he doesn't want Pickett there. He's like, why is that man still part of our army? Years later, after the war, General Pickett and General Longstreet go to visit Lee. And they have a lunch, they talk. But as they leave, Pickett says, that man massacred my division. It still hurt. Now, since historians believe that there are good evidence that Lee might have had a stroke sometime during Gettysburg. But even without the stroke, you could tell he was tired. He wanted this war to be over. And he took a gamble and lost. A toast. There are some moments that change history forever. This was one of those moments. If Pickett won, South could have been a separate country. We don't know. But losing, it definitely ensured we would stay together. It was a tragedy for the South. It's always a tragedy when Americans die. And this was the loss of a lot of life and us killing our own people. But you know what came from this battle? That came from this battle. We came back together. We brought them back home. History changes every minute. This battle changed my history because I asked my wife to marry me on this date, and it changed my history. This battle changed the history of the United States. We are one again. We brought our brothers back home. And just like the Revolutionary War, it took death to create this nation, and it took death to keep it together. To the men on both sides, because they were both Americans. To George Pickett, to Henry Hunt, to George Meade, to Robert E. Lee. They're all Americans. We need to remember our history. You don't tear down statues to remember anything. So, to Picketts Charge, to the Battle of Gettysburg, to the turning point. Now that's good history.